My daughter Ivy turned 16 on a Saturday in late September, and I had spent 4 months turning the Stillwater Vineyard Spa into the kind of memory she'd carry into her 20s. $300 a head for the pre-fixie dinner. A private cabana along the East Terrace, hand-tied peonies in cream and dusty pink, because that's the palette she'd been pinning on her mood board since Easter. What I did not plan for was my husband's younger sister gliding through the cedar archway at 6:45 with 8 strangers in matching robes, claiming the head of the table, and announcing to a room full of my daughter's actual friends that she would be ordering the gold leaf facial package and the reserve Cabernet flight, and that auntie's footing it, girls. Don't be shy. I felt the back of my throat lock up. I felt the cold sweat bloom under my dress. I pressed the heel of my hand into the linen tablecloth so hard I felt the wood underneath, and I watched my 16-year-old daughter's face go from glowing to gray in the space of one breath. Then I excused myself, walked out across the courtyard in heels I'd worn exactly twice, and I called the property manager to begin the most expensive lesson my sister-in-law would ever learn in her life. I run a dermatology and aesthetics clinic about 40 minutes north of San Francisco. 4 practitioners, 2 estheticians, a front desk that turns over 6 figures a quarter. When a tech founder needs a chemical peel between board meetings. When a venture partner needs filler before a magazine cover. That is my Tuesday. I am very good at staying calm, while a room full of people who are louder than me lose their minds. I learned that skill the long way. I have been my husband's sister's emotional checkbook for almost 12 years. My sister-in-law is 39. She has called herself a wellness influencer, a brand consultant, a mindset coach, and last spring, a soft life curator, all without holding a single paying client I have ever been able to verify. She lives in a rented townhouse in Mill Valley that her parents quietly cover. She drives a leased Range Rover that has been 3 months behind since February. Her closet is full of consignment pieces. She photographs once and resells before the credit card statement closes. Everyone in the family knows. Nobody in the family says it. 2 summers ago, she called me crying at 11 at night. She said her landlord was about to file an eviction. She said she just needed $4,000 to make it through the month, and she would have it back to me by the end of the next pay cycle. Whatever pay cycle she imagined that meant. I wired it before my husband even finished brushing his teeth. 3 days later, she was in Tulum. I saw the photos myself. Bare feet on a beach lounger, a glass of natural wine, a caption about investing in my nervous system. I did not get a single dollar back. When I brought it up to my husband's mother, she put her hand on top of mine at the kitchen island and told me, very gently, that we don't keep score in this family. That was the sentence I built the next 18 months around. We don't keep score in this family. I heard it again when she borrowed my mother-in-law's wedding ring for a photo shoot and lost it. I heard it again when she ran up a $1,300 tab at our Christmas brunch and quietly let the bill drift toward me. I heard it again when she showed up to our anniversary party with a man none of us had met and asked him, loud enough for the whole patio, whether we should have the lobster tower for the table. I learned to swallow it. 12 years of swallowick. 12 years of swallowing. But there is something about your daughter. There is something about the kid who used to fall asleep in your arms watching cartoons. Ivy had been planning this birthday since June. She had a spreadsheet, color-coded, with seating arrangements. She had picked the cake from a bakery in Healdsburg that I had to call twice to convince. She had written little place cards for each of her 11 friends in her own handwriting, because she said the calligraphy ones on mine looked fake fancy. 16 years old, and she still wanted her place cards to feel real. My sister-in-law was not invited. She knew she was not invited. She knew she was not invited. The invitation, which I personally addressed to her, was for cocktails at our house the following Sunday. An adults-only thank you for the family. She RSVP'd yes. She texted Ivy a heart emoji and a see you Sunday birthday girl. I had no reason to expect her at Stillwater. And then there she was. She came through the cedar archway in a white silk slip dress and a robe that wasn't even from the spa, just one she picked up somewhere to match. And behind her trailed 8 women I had never seen in my life. Phones already out. One of them had a small tripod. My sister-in-law walked the length of the terrace like she was walking a runway, and she stopped at the head of the table where Ivy was sitting, and she said, very brightly, "Sweetheart, scoot down a little. Auntie needs the light." Ivy looked at me. I have replayed that look about 400 times since. It was the look of a kid who has just realized that the adult she trusted to make the world okay might not be able to. She slid 2 seats to the left without a word. My sister-in-law sat down and my daughter's seat draped her arm across the back of the chair and said to the woman with the tripod, "Get the peonies in the shot, they're so giving fall equinox energy." I excused myself. I told Ivy I'd be right back. I touched the top of her head and I crossed the courtyard. 2 of the influencers were already at the bar, ordering the Cabernet Flight in my sister-in-law's name. I heard one of them ask the bartender, "Is it open tab?" And I heard him glance toward me, uncertain, and I gave him the smallest nod I could manage and kept walking. My mother-in-law caught up to me by the lavender hedge. She had hustled across the gravel so fast her shawl was crooked. She grabbed my elbow with both hands and pulled me toward the pergola, voice already wet. "Honey, I know what you're thinking, just please, please. She's having a hard time. The Range Rover got repossessed last week. Trevor doesn't know, just put it on your card. We'll figure it out. Don't make a scene in front of Ivy's friends. We'll figure it out tomorrow. I swear to you, I'll talk to her." I looked at her. I have looked at this woman across 12 Thanksgivings. I have packed her medication when she came to visit. I have held her hand through her hip surgery. And I realized, standing under that pergola with the lavender brushing my calf, that for 12 years she had been training me. Train the daughter-in-law to absorb. Train the daughter-in-law to write the check. Train the daughter-in-law to call it grace. "You used the word family," I said. My voice was very level. I could hear it from outside myself. "You always use that word when you want me to do something I'd never let anyone else do to me." "Honey, my 16-year-old daughter is sitting 2 chairs down from where she's supposed to be sitting. On her birthday, with 8 strangers ordering off a tasting menu she helped me pick. I am not putting this on my card." She started crying. Real tears, not the performance ones. "Please. Please. She'll go to jail. The credit cards are already in collections. The lease company is already calling. She'll lose everything." "Yes," I said. "She might." I walked away. I walked across the gravel, past the bar where the influencers were now 4 glasses deep, past the cabana where Ivy was watching me come, and I did not stop until I was in the lobby. I asked the front desk for the property manager by name. His name is Roland. He's been the operations director at Stillwater for 9 years. My clinic does the Botox for 2 of his estheticians at cost as a professional courtesy. We are not friends, but we are aligned. The way to adults who run small businesses for adult clients are aligned. And when he came around the corner from the wine vault and saw my face, he didn't even say hello. He said, "Talk to me." I walked him into the empty cigar lounge. I closed the door. "My booking is for 12 guests under my name and my card," I said. "The East Terrace, the Pre-Ca, Fixie, the Cabana, the Candle Moment at 9. That is locked in. That is mine. There is a woman at my table right now who is not on my booking, who arrived with 8 uninvited guests, who has told the bar staff that I am paying for their tab. I am not. I have never authorized her on my account. Pull everything she orders, everything those 8 women order, off my booking. Open a separate table for them under her name. Walk-in rate. Auto gratuity. If she tries to push it to my card, you decline. If she argues, you tell her the booking holder has revoked her, and you offer her the option of moving to the lounge bar or settling her own check. I'll take whatever blowback comes." Roland nodded once. He did not blink. He said, "I'll need a verbal confirmation from you on the property phone, just for the file." "Of course. Is your daughter okay?" That one got me. I had not been ready for someone to ask me that. I said yes, and my throat closed, and I waved my hand at him, and he very politely looked at the wall while I got my face back. Then I went and got my daughter. I knelt down next to Ivy's chair. I did not look at my sister-in-law. I put my hand on Ivy's knee under the tablecloth, and I said, "Sweet Pea, I'm moving us. Get your purse. Tell your friends to bring their drinks." "Mom, it's okay. It's better. Come on." She got up. Her 11 friends got up. 2 of them looked at my sister-in-law, the way you look at a stain. We walked, all of us, down the stone path that runs behind the main terrace, to the chef's private dining room beneath the wine cave. Roland had already had the staff set it. 12 places. The peonies had been carried down and reset on the long pine table. The place cards in Ivy's handwriting were already there. The cake was being kept cold, 3 doors down. My husband, who had been parking the car with my father-in-law when his sister staged her entrance, came down the stone steps with a look on his face that suggested he had just been briefed and was deciding, in real time, whose side he was going to be on for the rest of his life. He saw Ivy laughing at something her best friend had whispered to her. He saw the table set the way we'd planned it. He looked at me. He said, very quietly, "What do you need from me?" "Stay down here with her," I said. "Eat, smile, sing happy birthday loud. I have to go watch something." He kissed my temple. He stayed. I went back up the stone steps. I did not go onto the terrace. I went into the lobby, and I stood by the hostess desk, where I could see the East Terrace through the open French doors, half hidden by a column. I wanted to see her face. I am not above admitting that. I had paid 12 years of dues to see my sister-in-law's face when the bill landed. It landed at $8.50. Roland walked it out himself in a black leather folder. He set it in the exact center of the table, between two empty reserve flights and a half-finished gold leaf dessert. $5,840. I'd asked him for the breakdown later. 2 reserve Cabernet flights. 2 bottles of the 2017 estate. 4 gold leaf facial add-ons charged through to the spa side. 3 of the pre-fixie. The tasting upgrade for the table. Autograt at 22%. My sister-in-law laughed when she opened the folder. A small surprised laugh, like the punchline of a joke she hadn't quite caught. Then her face moved. I watched it move. The bones of it actually shifted. She turned to the woman next to her, said something I couldn't hear, and the woman shrugged. My sister-in-law pulled a black card out of her clutch and dropped it on the tray with theatrical flair, the kind of flair I have watched her practice in mirrors my entire marriage. Roland slid the card. The terminal made a sound. He turned the screen toward her, very politely. She pulled out a second card. Same sound. The woman with the tripod started filming, but she was filming the wrong thing. She was filming my sister-in-law's face. I think she thought she was capturing a power moment. She was capturing a collapse. Third card. Same sound. One of the influencers, a small blonde with a septum ring and a voice that traveled, leaned over, picked up the folder, looked at the total, looked at my sister-in-law and said, distinctly, "Babe, are you serious right now?" My sister-in-law's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The blonde stood up. She unhooked her little crossbody bag from the back of the chair. She pulled out 2 20s, dropped them on the table, said, "That's for the water," and she walked out. The other 7 did the math in roughly 90 seconds. 3 of them didn't even leave money. 1 actually grabbed her uneaten dessert and a napkin on the way out. By 9 o'clock, the East Terrace was empty, except for my sister-in-law and the man she had apparently brought as her +1, a guy I had never seen before in my life, who was now staring at his phone like the phone had answers. My mother-in-law had been hovering by the indoor bar this whole time. When the influencers scattered, she pivoted and beelined toward me at the hostess desk. I held up my hand. I didn't even turn my head. I said, "No." She stopped. Roland was already walking back to the terrace with the clipboard. I knew what was on it because I had asked him about Stillwater's policy on unpaid tabs a long time ago. Just out of professional curiosity, the way you learn other people's industries when you run events near them. Stillwater, like a lot of high-end hospitality, runs a property collateral policy. If a guest cannot settle, they can either be escorted off-premises by sheriff for theft of services, or they can voluntarily surrender items of equivalent value to be held in the property safe while they secure payment within 24 hours. It's a soft civil mechanism. It avoids the headline of an arrest at a luxury property. It also gives the guests the rope they need to keep digging. Roland presented the form to my sister-in-law at 9:06. I watched her sign it. I watched her surrender her phone, the one she'd been clutching like a life raft. I watched her surrender her driver's license. I watched the man she came with hand over his car keys because she didn't have any, the Range Rover being, as my mother-in-law had wept earlier, repossessed last week. I watched her sit there at an empty table with empty oyster shells and $40 glasses of water, and I watched her look up and see me through the French doors. I did not move. I did not smile. I just looked at her until she looked away first. Then I went downstairs to my daughter. We sang "Happy Birthday." We did the candles. Ivy made a wish I am still not allowed to know the contents of. We cut the cake. Her friend Macy made a toast that started, "I've known Ivy since pre-K," and made all 12 of them cry. We were down there until almost 11, and not one of those kids ever knew what had happened, 30 feet above their heads. It should have ended there. It really should have. But people who have been the favored child for 39 years do not accept defeat. They accept what they perceive as a temporary setback before the cosmic order is restored. My sister-in-law had 24 hours to deliver $5,840 in cash or certified funds. She had no card that worked. She had no car that started. She had a mother who, I would learn later, had already maxed out her own line of credit twice this year, covering Range Rover lease payments. She had a brother, my husband, who had finally looked at me across the cabana the night before and said, "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." I should have done this years ago. So she did the math wrong, the way panicked people do. She decided the answer was at my clinic. My clinic has a Wednesday morning rhythm. I'm usually at the office by 7:40. I unlock the back, set up the front desk float, run the autoclave check, prep the chart pull. There is a small key safe by the back door for the cleaning service and for the linens delivery. The combination is changed every quarter. There is also, in the locked filing cabinet behind the front desk, an envelope I keep for vendor cash, because 2 of my product reps refuse to take anything but cash, and I am too tired to fight them about it. About $6,000 on a normal Wednesday. She knew about the envelope. She knew because she had walked into the clinic once during a girls' lunch and asked me, mid-mascara, how I dealt with vendors, and I had, like an idiot, told her. She knew about the key safe because she had used the code to drop something off for me once when I was out of town. What she didn't know was that I had changed the code at 6:15 that morning. I had also installed 2 new motion-activated cameras the previous Saturday when I had the security tech in to upgrade the system after a kid kicked our back window in over the summer. The camera in the back hallway was new. The camera in the front office, pointed at the filing cabinet, was new. They both went to my phone. I was in the kitchen pouring my second cup of coffee at 8:02 when my phone started buzzing. Motion detected, back entrance. Motion detected, front office. Audio detected. I opened the app. My sister-in-law was standing inside my clinic, in jeans and a baseball cap, trying the second drawer of my filing cabinet. The +1 from the night before was watching the door. I did not call my husband. I did not yell at the phone. I tapped the microphone icon on the camera feed, the 2-way audio I'd had them install for the front desk, and I said, in the same level voice I had used in the pergola the night before, "You came to my place of business to steal cash to pay for last night." She froze. She actually froze. Then she did the thing I will never understand, to my dying day, the thing that tells you everything about a person who has been protected too long. Instead of running, she straightened up, looked directly into the camera, and started yelling. About me. About the family. About how I had humiliated her, ruined her career, embarrassed her in front of real connections she'd spent months cultivating. The +1 was halfway out the door already, gesturing at her to come on. The 911 operator was very calm. I gave her the address. I told her there was an active break-in, that I had video, that the suspect was still on premises, and was, I emphasized, my husband's sister. They were there in 9 minutes. My sister-in-law was still in my front office, yelling at a camera when they came through the door. What happened next was law and time, which are the 2 things people who live on charm cannot bargain with. She missed her 24-hour deadline at Stillwater because she spent the morning in county booking. Roland filed the theft of services as a misdemeanor, and the burglary charge at my clinic with HD video of her opening drawers was bumped to a felony. 2 charges, 2 days. The +1, who turned out to be someone she had met 3 weeks earlier on an app, took a plea on accessory and disappeared from her life within 72 hours. My husband filed nothing. He didn't need to. He drove to his mother's house that afternoon and had a conversation with her and his father that lasted, he told me later, about 40 minutes. He came home, sat down at the kitchen counter, took my hands, and said, "I told them they don't get access to Ivy until they understand what they protected. I told them I am not negotiating this with them." His mother called me 3 days later, not to apologize, to ask if I would consider paying for her daughter's defense attorney, because the public defender, she said, doesn't really get her. I said no. I said it without any drama. I just said no, and I hung up, and I went back to dinner with my husband and my daughter, and we ate. We ate at our own table with our own people in our own house, and nobody asked anyone to pay anyone's rent. The case settled on a plea. 3 years probation, 400 hours of community service, restitution of $5,840 to Stillwater, restitution of attorney's fees to me, and a stay-away order for my clinic and her home. Her parents emptied a retirement account. The same retirement account my husband had been told for 15 years he was not allowed to ask about because it was for emergencies. This, apparently, was the emergency. The strangest part is what happened to Ivy. She did not, as I had feared, carry the night with her like a wound. She told me, about a week later, sitting on the kitchen island with her knees up under her sweater, that watching me walk out of the terrace and come back with Roland was the single coolest thing she had ever seen a woman do. She said, "I didn't even know you could do that, Mom." And then she asked if I would teach her, when she was old enough, how to write a contract. I said yes. I am still planning that lesson. About 4 months after the plea, an envelope arrived at our house with no return address. Cheap notebook paper. My sister-in-law's handwriting, which I would know in any country in the world. She wrote that she was living in a studio above a tea shop in Petaluma. She wrote that she was grateful for the wake-up call. She wrote that she hoped, when enough time had passed, we could remember that family is family. She used the word 3 times in 2 pages. I read it standing at the kitchen island, the same one where my mother-in-law had once told me we don't keep score. I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly in half, put it in the trash under the coffee grounds, and went back to making my daughter's breakfast. The $5,840 I never paid is currently in a 529 account for Ivy's freshman year. I let her pick the name on the account. She called it the Petty Fund. I told her I thought that was a little aggressive. She told me, 16 years old and already smarter than me, the pettiness gets a bad rap when it's actually just somebody finally saying no out loud. I think about that a lot. I think about how many years I spent being trained to call no a betrayal. I think about how many women I know. Women I sit next to at PTA meetings, women I see at my clinic with their husband's mother's number in their phone marked ICE, who are still funding somebody else's fantasy because they were taught that love is a tab you can never close. Here's what I learned. If you want to know if someone respects you, watch what they order when they think you're paying. If you want to know if your boundary is real, watch what happens the first time they cross it. A boundary without a consequence is a wish. A wish does not protect a 16-year-old's birthday. A consequence does. Separate the check. Sign the file. Change the code on the safe. Walk back into the room and sing happy birthday to your daughter. Let the people who built their life on your silence find out what your voice sounds like. My tab is closed. I hope yours is too. I've thought a lot, in the months since that night at Stillwater, about why it took me 12 years to walk across a courtyard and say one sentence out loud. I was not stupid. I ran a clinic. I read contracts for breakfast. I could spot a bad faith negotiation across a conference room and price it before the coffee got cold. And yet, when it came to my husband's sister, I wrote check after check and called it love. The honest answer is that I had been taught, slowly and gently and over a long stretch of family dinners, that my no was a kind of violence, that setting a limit was the same as withdrawing affection. My mother-in-law had a phrase for it. We don't keep score in this family. What that phrase actually meant, I see now, was you keep paying and we keep counting. Cause and effect is the quietest teacher in the room. My sister-in-law did not wake up at 39 deciding to crash a 16-year-old's birthday. She arrived at that terrace because every adult in her life, including me, had spent 2 decades teaching her that consequences were optional for her specifically. The Tulum trip after the eviction lie. The wedding ring that was never replaced. The Christmas tab that quietly drifted onto my card. Each of those was a small lesson, and she learned them all. So when she walked through that cedar archway with 8 strangers, she was not being audacious. She was applying what she had been taught. The bill came due not because I am cruel, but because reality, eventually, sends the invoice. What I want my daughter Ivy to understand, and what I am still teaching myself, is that being a good person is not the same as being an easy person. Goodness has a spine. The strongest, kindest people I know are also the people who can say no without explaining themselves 3 times. Roland did not pity me at Stillwater. He respected me, because I walked in with a clear ask and the willingness to absorb the blowback. Macy, Ivy's friend, who gave that toast, will grow up watching how the women around her hold a line. That matters. Our daughters are reading us even when we think they are scrolling. The intelligence part is simpler than people make it. Document everything. Change the codes. Ask the manager for the file note. Know your camera angles. The world rewards people who write things down and punishes the ones who rely on goodwill. The strength part is harder, because strength is not loud. Strength is going back downstairs and singing happy birthday with your whole chest, while a felony is being committed, 30 feet above your head. Strength is folding the apology letter in half and putting it in the trash without rereading it. 12 years is a long time to be trained. 12 hours, it turned out, was all I needed to retrain everyone else. If you're sitting somewhere right now counting up what you have spent, in money or in silence, to keep someone else's image standing, I want you to know the math is on your side the moment you decide to do it. Close the tab. Sign your own name to your own life. Then go sing happy birthday to whoever is waiting for you.